John likes tech and lives in Indiana, you know. Kevin likes the Dodgers and talks on the radio. John plays games on Xbox and on his Nintendo, while Kevin runs around LA with his mustachio. It's the Lack of Genius podcast, in your ear holes at last. They don't know they're Mars from Venus, that's why it's the Lack of Genius podcast. John, good to see you, man.
Hey, Kevin. Good to see you.
This would be where, if we had the rights to it, I would play the Olympic theme song, but we don't, so we'll just have to all imagine it in our heads as we're also listening to the bed of my theme song. So it's a lot. There's a lot of music going on in our heads right now.
Yeah, I mean, do you know who wrote that?
I don't. Who wrote it, John?
It was John Williams for the Olympics that were held in LA.
John, knowledge bomb.
Right off the bat with a knowledge bomb, John. Right off the bat. Okay, wait. John Williams, who ironically we were just talking about, because John here does. I would say you think he's overrated, right? Is that phrasing it fairly?
Right.
You're not necessarily knocking his skill as a composer and a musician. You just think he's overrated.
Right.
But he wrote the Olympic theme for the 84 games in LA.
That's my understanding.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I don't care if you're wrong or not. You dropped that with so much confidence. That's a knowledge bomb for life. Yeah. Well, you know, we are in full swing of the Winter Olympics as of recording this, and even as this comes out, we still have, I think, another 4 or 5 days of Winter Olympic coverage in Beijing. So just like we did with the Summer Games, John and I are quizzing each other on our favorite Winter Olympic sports.
We are.
And John, why don't you tell us what you're doing?
Curling.
What is your experience? What can you tell us about curling without spoiling a quiz? What do we need to get excited about?
I have never curled, but I want to.
Yes.
And I just enjoy watching it. It's fun.
You know, the interesting thing about curling is it reminds me a lot of bocce ball, right? You know, you throw a white ball and you try to get the other balls closest to it, and the opposite team can move your ball out of the way. And so that's one of the reasons I enjoy curling, because I have the experience of bocce ball. They're obviously very different skill sets, but right. I have this understanding of the general, idea behind the game. So it does make it enjoyable. And I would say curling is one of those, it's kind of the butt of every joke for Winter Olympics. Like, how is this a sport? How are these Olympians? But man, I like that it's a skill-based thing. Mm-hmm. It's it takes a lot of technique and skill, and it doesn't, sports aren't always about just sheer athleticism. So right. I totally stand by curling being in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, and the joke from 4 years ago when the U.S. men's team won gold, which was the first time they'd won gold.
Wow.
Was that it was just, a group of dads just decided to go out for the weekend and ended up at the Olympics.
Which is hilarious. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that far off either. I mean,
But these guys do, as far as I know, probably play year round for the most part. It may not be as strict a training regimen as a downhill skier or someone who really needs to keep their bodies. I don't know how much you really need to keep your body in shape. But, even same as like golf, people underestimate golf, but these people have to work out and get their muscles in the right, they got to tone the right muscles. So there's technique behind all of these things.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. John, you're a dad. That means you could be a curler, I think. I think that's what we just...
Yeah, I mean, if there was a sport that I could even conceivably end up at the Olympics, it's probably curling.
You look like a curler. I don't even know what most curlers look like. You just have the look for it, though.
Well, I mean, at least for U.S., most curlers are from, Wisconsin, Minnesota.
Yeah.
So...
Well, that you're right in the wheelhouse. Before we knew we were doing this episode, this was weeks ago, I was looking up some of the Team USA people. And so I don't even remember their names at this point. But yeah, all of them were like from Minnesota, from Wisconsin. It's just like, I'm not surprised I'm not seeing anyone from San Diego, California on here,
Right.
Well, yeah, so a lot of excitement about curling, clearly. And I am doing the sport of bobsled, which actually, I'll right off the bat say that I believe the words bobsled and bobsleigh are interchangeable. Some sources, they refer to it as bobsleigh. I think bobsleigh is maybe in place of bobsledding, which is a word that I use. So I'll probably use it interchangeably, but most commonly I say bobsled. And the reason it's my favorite sport is purely because of Cool Runnings, the 1993 movie, I believe, with John Candy and Leon and Dougie Doug. And this is not an exaggeration. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Anyways, bobsled is what I'm doing. And I'm super excited to do this.
Me too.
I will say we were perfect last week, so we don't have anything to tidy up. So I say we just get right into quiz time. Yeah.
Sounds good.
It's time to take a quiz or two. Like a genius podcast doing this for you. You may fail, but it ain't no lie, baby, it's quiz time. Don't really want this quiz to be tough. I just want to pass one cause I failed enough. It might sound crazy, but it ain't no lie, baby, it's quiz time.
Oh yeah, time to learn about some snow stuff. Well, I guess really some ice stuff, since both of our sports take place on ice, not snow.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, hopefully you'll do better than what the U.S. mixed doubles curling team did, and that they didn't get a medal this year, but...
Bummer. Mixed double, so this is 2 people, 1 male, 1 female, essentially? Not essentially,
Yep,
but...
that's it exactly.
Good to know. Well, yeah, let's see if I can win the gold, unlike our mixed doubles American team, unfortunately, and see how I do with curling.
Okay, you ready for the first question?
Yeah, let's do it.
In which century contains the first examples of curling? And by examples, in this case, there are a couple stones that are actually dated.
Wow.
So is it the 15th, 16th, 17th, or 18th centuries?
Yeah, that's wild. What a good question, because, in some ways, at least what we see curling as, you think, okay, that's got to be relatively modern, but really the idea is just pushing rocks along the ice. And for all I know, maybe it wasn't even first on ice, but like there's been ice and snow and rocks forever. And
right.
So that's my John knowledge bomb, by the way. There's been rocks and ice and snow forever. So this could be very early. It could be the 15th century, which is the earliest choice. We got 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. By the way, the 15th century is the 1400s.
Yes.
I always have to confirm that. Man, I mean, any of these would be crazy early. The 18th century is the latest one. That's the 1700s. I'm just going to choose the earliest, though. I'm going to say the 15th century. I'm going to see if my mind is blowing. Not quite that early.
Not quite that early. Close. It's the 16th century. And it's actually fairly close to the 15th because the date inscribed on the stone is 1511.
Wow.
So if it was just 13 years earlier, then you would have been right.
That's amazing. So, and what foresight for these people to etch the date into it. Thank you for making our lives easier as historians. Yeah.
I mean, and there's another stone from 1551. I think it's one of those stones. And the first football, and I believe that's meaning soccer ball, are actually both held in the same art museum.
No way. That's cool. But I'm guessing the first football/soccer ball probably came later, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much later.
Did you say where the stones were found, where they're from?
The 1511 one, along with the 1551, were both found in an old pond in Dunblane, Scotland.
Scotland, okay. I don't know if you had the same experience with curling, but the history of it is it's hard to attribute it to one exact person or place.
Right.
But that's pretty incredible. 1511. And for all we know, they were playing it before that. That's just the first examples of actual evidence.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and Scotland was kind of the main place. In general, it's the Scots that brought curling over to Canada, and it's a big thing in Minnesota. Not just because it's cold there, but because there was a large Scottish population in Minnesota.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until I was watching a 4-part documentary on Peacock about the curling team.
That's great, man. And I can only assume that back in 1511 they were wearing kilts as they were pushing these rocks on the ice. At least that's what I'm going to imagine. All right.
Who knows?
Well, I missed the first one. I'm 0 for 1. We're going to get you started with bobsled. You ready?
Yep.
You get a true or false question right off the bat. And spoiler alert, I have sandwiched this quiz with true or false questions. So the first and the last question are both true or false. I'm treating you well today. True or false, John? The name bobsled comes from the name of the man who invented the bobsled. Is that true or is that false?
I'm going with false.
All right. Any reason behind it?
Because I feel like it wasn't a guy named Bob that came up with the bobsled.
I don't know, John. I don't know. Let's see if you're right. Wait. Sorry. I don't know why I just hit that. I was hitting it. You are correct. Yes, it wasn't a man named Bob. And I realize I kind of spoiled that because I said it's hard to pinpoint it to one person. Do you have any idea why they call it bobsled?
Because you're bobbing back and forth?
Basically, yeah. In fact, it's derived from, it's an action that early competitors adopted. So they would do it on purpose, actually. They would bob back and forth inside the sleds to increase the speed. So it was intentional, but ironically, you also, from the pure speed of it, are doing a lot of bobbing in general. And so quick history of bobsleds. It's credited to a group of wealthy tourists from Victorian Britain. Okay, so these wealthy tourists would go and they'd vacation in the winter in St. Moritz, Switzerland. So in Switzerland, and they were drawn to this place because of a dude named Caspar Badrut, which is a great name. Caspar Badrut, thank you for existing with that name. He had a hotel where like in the summer and in the spring, they'd get all kinds of tourists, but in the winter, they wouldn't have any. So this dude Caspar starts promoting it to these wealthy people, almost like early age influencing, brings in these rich people and says, you can stay here for free in the winter if by the end of it, you can honestly say you didn't have a good time. And so he would bring them in, he would give them drinks and show them fun things to do and all this stuff. And they all had a blast and they'd go home and they'd tell all their rich friends and then they'd come the next season and do it. So really was a smart thing. As the years went on, they started finding fun things to do. And somewhere along the lines, these tourists, I guess there were delivery sleds that boys would be on. And they decided to take these sleds and start just basically zooming through the town of St. Moritz on these crazy downhills to the point that they actually had so many collisions with pedestrians that they had to ban bobsledding in public streets of St. Moritz. So then Caspar Badrut goes and he builds in one of the off seasons an actual run, which actually has been used in Olympic events. It's I forget the name of it. I'll check it out later. But so then they started using that, and technology increased, all that stuff. So anyways, St. Moritz, Switzerland, vacationing, and Caspar Badrut. Drop those names next time bobsled comes up, and people will be very impressed with you.
I'll try to remember those.
Yes. You'll drop a knowledge bomb in real life. A real-time John knowledge bomb. All right, good job. You got it right. 1 for 1. I'm 0 for 1. Let's see what happens next.
So just like many articles of sports, equipment, there is some variation in what's allowed. So the numbers on this are kind of the average. How heavy is the stone that is used? 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40, or 50 pounds?
Ooh, wow. Man, 50 seems very heavy. So what I'm trying to do right now is envision, it's been a while since I've actually watched curling, and I'm trying to envision the push off, sort of how much force are they putting into it? It could be 50 pounds. 50 feels a little heavy. 20 feels a little light. I'm going to be honest.
It's also on ice though.
Yeah. So you're saying because there's less friction, it's sliding easier. So you don't have to put as much force into it. I had an excellent ice skating adventure this winter, and so I have some familiarity with ice fresh in my mind.
Yeah, some of us just live with that during the winter.
Yeah. We just go to downtown LA where they temporarily put it up. By the way, we talked to the Zamboni guy there, and he was telling me that they Zamboni it, and then they literally have to just go and find a street, like a street that's not used, and dump all the ice there because there's no other place to put it. So they just dump all this ice in the middle of the streets of downtown LA. Well, not the middle, but probably in the gutter and a less used street. Fun fact. 40 is popping out to me. I'm tempted to choose 50 because you're like, well, remember it's on ice. I'm going to choose 40 pounds. I'm going to lock it in. All right. Woo.
Yeah, it could be anywhere from 38 to 44 pounds.
Okay, so right in that range.
Yep. That's per the World Curling Federation, which I think is what the Olympics kind of goes off of. I'm not positive on that. But an interesting thing about the curling stones is at least on the high-end level of things, the Olympics and other high-end tournaments, the stones come from one of two places. And that's it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. There's a place called Ailsa Craig, which is an island off of the coast of Scotland. And then there's the Trefor Granite Quarry in Wales. And they actually are different colors. So you can actually, if you know what the colors are from where they are, which place is which and colors, then you can actually say, that's an Ailsa Craig stone versus the other one.
What, can you say those names again? Elza, like ELZA? How's that spelled?
It's Ailsa, Ailsa. I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced.
Probably means island, I would guess, right? Ailsa Craig.
Probably.
Probably. And what's the other one?
Trefor Granite Quarry.
Yeah. because both
And
of those
Wales.
names have a certain like magical mystique to them. In a sort of fantasy world, it's like curling rocks only come from two places, the magical Isle of Craig and the Trefor whatever of whatever. Like there's some magical property there that makes their rocks specially suited for curling. Are they called stones? Is that what they call them in
the stones or rocks.
Okay.
Here in North America, they tend to be called rocks. Outside of the US and Canada, they're stones.
Okay. And do you have any idea is there an advantage to having a lighter or heavier stone, or it just comes down to personal preference and team preference kind of deal?
It might just be preference. I mean, if you have a lighter stone, you don't have to put as much effort behind it.
Yeah.
But that could also mean that it'll curl a lot easier too.
Yeah.
And curling is just the rotation which causes it to curve.
Got it. And that's why it's called curling. That is, I've never put that together. So you might give it like a little push on the right side to make it spin whatever that counterclockwise, and then it would curl in that way. Wow, John. I'm learning so much. I am seriously so fascinated by this. This is amazing. And I asked the question about the head. I did not include a question about this, but the reason I asked is because, bobsleds also have a weight limit. So I believe you could theoretically be as light as you want to be, but there's no advantage to being light. You basically want to get as close to the maximum weight as possible. Right. And the sled itself, they try to make light, but you actually can reinforce it with weights, and you obviously want kind of heavier people because it's really, you're just trying to take advantage of gravity as much as possible. I mean, there's more to it than that.
So it sounds like I would be perfect for that.
You could be a curler or a bobsledder. Yeah. I think you'd be a good brake man. I think you'd put you in the back and just...
Yeah, put me in the back because I can't jump that well, so I just kind of got to slide in.
The ironic thing though, is that the brake person literally jumps in and puts their head straight down. They're not looking up, they get down, but you're so tall that it would be so funny watching your team go because your head would be poking up even though it's supposed to be down. Oh, that's too good. What a great visual. All right. I'm grateful to get that one right. I'm 1 for 2. You're 1 for 1. Here's number 2 on bobsledding. Which of the following countries has never competed in bobsled at the Winter Olympics? Is it American Samoa, Nigeria, Finland, or Jamaica?
Well, I know Jamaica has, and pretty certain Finland has. I want to say American Samoa.
Okay, just because it sounds like you narrowed it down between American Samoa and Nigeria, so just of those two.
Yeah, for some reason, I feel like I've heard about Nigeria doing it, so I'm just going to go with American Samoa.
All right, American Samoa, John, that is incorrect, and I did hit the correct button. Well, I hit the incorrect button, but it happens to be the correct one in this instance. I was blown away by this, but it's Finland. Finland, for some reason. I know. So I started putting this question together because I thought it was really interesting so yeah, you're right. Nigeria in 2018 made their debut, and I remember hearing that. 94 was when American Samoa had a team. That's the only year they had one, so I don't know the full story behind that. And we all know that Jamaica famously came in 1988, and they have been in every game except for 06 and 2010 because they didn't qualify, unfortunately, but they've had athletes at every game. So I was very interested in these kind of random American Samoa and Nigeria being in bobsled. And so I was like, well, let me find a country that hasn't been in it. And I was looking for all the major ones, like, Canada, Mexico's had a team. And then I just thought, well, let me look at these Norway, Finland, and Finland has never had a team. I even looked to try to find a reason why they didn't. I don't know. For some reason, it's just not part of their sports culture there. If Finland ever does get a team, you better believe I'm getting the movie rights and we're covering that thing because that's going to make headlines. Go Team Finland eventually, one of these years, maybe 2026.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. What year was the first official medals event for curling at the Olympics? 1924, 1932, 1998, or 2018?
Oh my goodness, you've got a range here. 1924 and 32 would to me jump out, but the fact that you have 98 and 2018 is like, wow, did they not start medaling? I don't know if you deliberately worded this question in kind of an interesting way. First year medal events, like Was there non-medal curling events before?
Yeah. So before, normally an Olympics or two, before an event becomes an official sport at the Olympics, they'll do demonstrations. Like before snowboarding became an official event, there was demonstrations for it beforehand, just so that way the Olympic committees and stuff can get an idea of what it would be like and so on, engage people's interest in it.
Gotcha. Okay. I do not think it's 2018 because I feel like curling has been sort of in the atmosphere for long. Yeah, it definitely has. 98 is technically possible, but I think I have to choose one of the early ones because the first evidence of the sport was in the 1500s, 1511. So it would be crazy to think that it took an insane amount of time. Here's what I'm going to go out on a limb and say. I'm going to say that 1924 is when they did the what'd you say, the tryout, the preliminaries, and 1932 is the first year that they had it as a medal event. That's what I'm going to choose. Oh, wait.
You're both wrong and right. It's actually 1924.
Okay.
But up until 2002, you would have been kind of right. And that 1924 was what was considered to be the first demonstrations of the Winter Olympics as a whole. But it wasn't actual Winter Olympics yet. It was like a preview of Winter Olympics.
Gotcha.
And then in 2002, the Olympic Committee went back and said, no, that was the first Winter Olympics.
Oh, got
However,
it. Okay.
So 1924 is technically the first medal events for curling.
Okay.
However, until 2002, it was actually 1998 was when the first curling medals were done. 1932 was a demonstration event again that year. And 2018 actually was when mixed doubles became an official Olympic event.
Got it. Wow. So this is the second Olympics with the mixed doubles, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, so are you saying, I don't know if I followed that entirely, because are you saying basically from like 1932 to 98, there wasn't even curling in the games at all?
Correct. It wasn't an official event. Like in 1932, they did demonstrations for it again.
Yeah.
There were 4 Canadian teams and 4 U.S. teams.
Okay.
Canada won that 12 games to 4.
Wow. Okay. Dominant.
Yeah. No, Canada is a very dominant. Like it was almost a given that if Canada was in the tournament, Canada was going to win.
Wow.
Which is why it was such a big upset at the last Olympics when the U.S. team won.
Yeah. So USA winning that gold was a major upset. It was like a big deal.
Oh yeah, no, it really was, especially leading up, the previous couple Olympics. The U.S. team had a horrible showing. In fact, the skip for the team, the captain, John Schuster, his last name became synonymous with horrible, like just bad.
Oh no.
Like, yeah. Like on Twitter, it got pretty bad. And then, him and the team turned it around at the last Winter Olympics and
he redeemed himself.
And yeah,
and the
he
team.
did.
Okay. So what happened? Did I get any of that? What was
You got it wrong.
What was the right answer 1998 then?
No, the right answer is 1924.
Oh, because they went back and changed it in history. Got it. But
yeah, I mean, if we had recorded this 21 years ago, it would have been 98.
Okay, maybe in the multiverse, maybe in some other dimension, the Lack of Genius podcast recorded this 21 years ago. Okay, so I missed it. I'm 1 for 3. Ooh, I got some work to do. And you are 1 for 2 going into number 3. Yep. Another country one. So not including this year's games, which country has won the most Olympic medals in bobsled? Is it Switzerland, Canada, Germany, or Jamaica?
I want to go with either Switzerland or Germany, just mainly because of the engineering aspect to the bobsled. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Germany. No. Yeah. Germany.
Germany, John? No. You locking it in?
No, Switzerland.
You're going to go with Switzerland? You can change your mind one more time if you want to. You could change your mind 2 more times for all I care. You're going to choose Switzerland?
Yep.
Locking it in.
Mm-hmm.
Switzerland is incorrect. You should have changed your mind one more time. It is Germany. Germany is a powerhouse in bobsled. Now, Switzerland is the second most decorated, so you weren't far off. And in fact, in the movie Jamaica, Switzerland is more or less, spoiler alert, they're more or less, they're like the bad guys, but they eventually, they actually clap for them at the end when, which by the way, in the movie, if you've only seen the movie and never seen the actual footage, in the movie, they get up and they dramatically carry the bobsled across the finish line. They did not hoist it over their shoulders in real life. They did have that big spill, but they pushed it along the cart. But that scene gets me every time. And if you've seen the movie and you know what I'm talking about, when Junior's dad shows up and he opens up his shirt and he's wearing a Go Jamaica shirt, I get teary-eyed every single time because he didn't want him to be there, and none of that was actually true, but it gets me every time. So anyways, back to the question. Germany is a powerhouse. Technically, according to records, they have the same amount of medals as Team USA, but their records bleed in with East Germany during the years that there was a split between Germany and East Germany. And during those years.
And that history is kind of what made me second guess it was after the war.
I know. And it's like now I feel kind of bad because if you're looking at the actual totals, Switzerland has more than Germany as an isolated nation.
Right.
But when you add in East Germany's, then Germany has more. So I don't know. If we end up tying, I think I'll give you the win because you got half credit on that one. Because it is a little bit tricky in that sense. But Germany with East Germany has 38 total medals. Switzerland has 31. USA has 25. So those are the top three. Yeah. So there you go. I think that's all I got for that.
Okay. You ready for a true or false?
Yes.
So true or false? Curling is also called chess on ice or the roaring game. So it could be either one of those.
Got it. Okay. Chess on ice is interesting because I would say that curling is like a chess match where you're probably placing your stone, you're placing it in such a position that not only benefits you for potentially offense, but can serve as defense. Or really, you're probably choosing one or the other, where you could just choose a completely defensive method. In fact, it sort of reminds me of our cornhole episode, where sometimes you just play defense and you pack up a bunch of bags in front of the hole so that they have to. Yeah, this is totally chess, because I'm sure they do the same thing in curling. The roaring game is interesting to me. I wouldn't know what that comes from. My guess would be maybe the stones make a roaring sound on the ice, if that's true. This seems fairly specific, so I'm going to choose true. I'm just going to go with my kind of gut and common sense and say true here. Yes.
Correct. Both of those are nicknames for curling, and you're right on the roaring game.
Okay.
They add droplets of water to the surface, the play surface.
Okay.
And so when the stones go over that, it creates a roaring sound.
Fun. I want to go search that. I want to go find that sound.
Yeah, and chess on ice. Your thinking is pretty much true. It's kind of. I've played bocce ball. It's been a while.
Uh-huh.
Like with bocce ball, you only have like one ball, right, per person.
No, you have, or
can you have multiple?
It's 4, but you can play teams. It's like one white ball and then you have 4 throws of each team or person to get closest.
Okay. Yeah. So with curling, you've got just a long sheet of ice, about 140 feet from end to end, and I think it's like 20 some feet wide. And on each end, you've got a series of concentric circles, a bullseye essentially.
Okay.
Called the house. And you take turns going back and forth. Each team has, I think it's 4 stones. I think, yeah, and because there's 4 people on the team,
yeah.
And so whoever has the hammer, whichever team gets to throw the last stone, has an obvious advantage.
Yeah,
because you're basically going, whoever has the most stones closest to the center of the house gets points, and then it's however many stones are closest then
their next closest, or then their closest, right?
Say, you and I are playing and I got one that's, dead center in the house, and then another one that's the second closest stone, and then you've got the third closest. Mm-hmm. I would get 2 points then.
Okay.
But if, I had the closest and you had the second, then I would only get 1 point.
Got it. Yeah, that's exactly like bocce ball, actually.
Yeah. Okay. And so there is a definite defensiveness to it. Bocce ball might be a little bit harder to do the putting the curling on it, because you're kind of throwing it, not necessarily rolling it, or are you? You're also
you can do either.
Sometimes.
Yeah, you can do either. The other tricky thing with bocce ball is that the white ball, the Polino, the target can move. If it moves, then you play it where it lies. So that's a little different than what curling does.
Yeah, I mean, and with curling, the stones can curl, and that's why you've got the people in front of the stone sweeping, because they're affecting how the ice is, and that affects what the stone does, whether it can speed it up, slow it down,
Wow.
cause it to curl some more. And so then you've got the skip at the end, watching where the stone's going, figuring out, like where they're wanting it to go, and you're hearing them yell out to the broomers what to do.
The skip is the one yelling out what to do.
Yep.
Because they're watching it happen. Now, does the skip actually do any physical? Like they're just, or are they just the shot caller?
Both. I mean, they both will call out, what to do. They'll also, I think each person will throw one stone or slide the stone. So, they rotate, but after the skip's turn, you'll sometimes hear him yelling while he's thrown. He'll be sliding along and the others are brushing.
That's pretty amazing. And I like that each person goes, because it's sort of, it makes it a true team sport. You're basically only as strong as your weakest link to some extent, right?
Exactly. And they have a set order that they go in. Some people are really good at getting it tucked in right behind another stone to act as a defensive thing.
I see.
And so then, other people are good at just very precise, shots on another stone to get it knocked out. So the order that they go in is also kind of pertinent as well.
Well, it's amazing because you could say it's like a relay race where you put your anchor at your fastest person at the end, but you also put someone strong at the start to get a good start. There's thought process behind the order that you do things. And that's great. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people recognize how much of a team sport curling really is. And that's pretty fascinating. All I know is I want to watch some curling right now. This is great. And I want to play, to be completely honest. I would love to go. You mentioned at the beginning something about how like it's popular and out. Like, are there places in the Midwest where like people are just out on a lake like doing curling? Or is it really, you have to go to like a proper club for that?
I'm sure there are places up further north than where I'm at, but in general, no, it's gyms. I know up in Fort Wayne, I saw an ad for, an ice rink up there that, for like $20, you can go for a night and learn how to curl and stuff.
Very cool, man. Very cool. All right. Well, I just went 2 for 4 on that. And I think you're 1 for 3, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Unless we tie, and then I'll give you the win. Number 4 on bobsled. What is the fastest a bobsled has been clocked at the Olympics? 84 miles per hour, 88 miles per hour, 94 miles per hour, 98 miles per hour.
I have no idea, so I'm just going to go with 94.
It's funny because I'm looking at this now like, wow, I didn't even give him an obvious like no answer on this one. What was I was being mean. You're going to choose 94?
Yep.
John, that is correct. You picked the right one. Good job. And I feel less bad about not giving you an out. I don't know why this is the case, but there is no like hard number of this is the absolute fastest a bobsled has ever gone. I could not find that. Everything said like reportedly the record is this, and I don't know why that is, but according to what my research, it was actually Team USA's sled in the 2010 Winter Olympics that reportedly reached 152 kilometers per hour, which is 94.4 miles per hour, which is pretty gosh dang fast.
Okay. That is. And
that seems about right because most of my research showed that the average high speed is 93 miles per hour. That's the fastest that they're known to go, at least in competition. And again, reported world record. I could not find a verification on this, but multiple sources said this. 125 miles per hour is the fastest a bobsled has ever gone. Now, I don't believe this was in competition. I think this is just, we want to see how fast we can get this thing to go. Let's do everything right, get on it straight away and see how fast we can get it. So I don't know where that was. Every article that I linked to try to find this was like no longer up. So that may be totally bogus. But the bottom line for the purpose of learning about bobsleds is that 93 is about where, if you can imagine going that fast on a freeway, you're, that's what a bobsled is doing. And, you were just talking about publicly being able to play curling. I did discover in my research that you can do what's called tourist bobsledding in certain places. I believe in my very brief research on it, I think it's only in Canada, but there's probably places in the United States too. But you can go with a driver essentially, because really once you're in the bobsled, yes, when you get to the professional level, your body movement is everything. But if you're just going, you really just need someone who knows how to drive to do the job and probably someone to pull the brakes. So I think what they do is they put a driver in the front, a brake person in the back, and then you can go in a pair in the middle. And I read this woman's blog about her experience doing it, and she started the article by saying that she asked the guy, has anyone ever peed their pants while doing this? And he said, oh yes, and vomited as well. And she was asking as a joke, but then once she was sitting there, she was like, oh my God, am I going to pee my pants during this? And the video is pretty hilarious because it's, obviously it's kind of shaky. She has a GoPro on the top of her helmet, but the whole time you're hearing just like a, and what it is it's her, maybe it's her husband, whoever she was with, their helmets are constantly hitting because she said you're going so fast, you have no control over your head or your body. Right. You're literally just at the mercy of G-force essentially, or gravity. And I was reading, I don't know a lot about G's and G-force and all that kind of stuff, but going at those speeds, your body is apparently 5 times heavier than it is. It's
potentially, yeah.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So, I have a new goal in life of finding one of these tourist bobsled. That would be a dream come true. And I would carry a lucky egg just like Senka and Cool Runnings did. Oh my God, it would be a dream come true.
Well, I mean, they probably have these out at places in California, but down in Gatlinburg and stuff in Tennessee, they've got what are called mountain coasters, which look like one-man bobsleds in a way.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's just this kind of U-shaped concrete path, and you just sit on this thing that has a hand lever brake.
Yep.
And you just basically just use the gravity of going down the mountain. So, I mean, in a way,
yeah,
that's kind of like a bobsled.
Yep.
But you don't have to have snow and ice.
I actually know exactly what you're talking about. Big Bear, California has one of these, and I went on them with my siblings one time, and I had a few drinks beforehand, which made me a little bit loose on the brakes, and I actually flew off the track or something. It's at the very end of a turn. I was like, all right, I'm going full speed in this one, and I fell out. I was like, they told me not to do that, and I'm going to get in trouble now. Yeah, those are crazy fun. I would highly recommend those. All right. Good job, man. What a great guess. So we're both 2 for 4 going into the last question here.
Yep.
All right. Let's do it.
Which curler from the U.S. men's Olympic team was a flag bearer in the 2022 opening ceremonies?
Oh.
And all 4 names here are the 4 people on the team.
Okay.
So, John
Schuster,
Matt Hamilton, Chris Plies, or John Landsteiner.
Well, this is hilarious because we've talked a little bit about them, and I know you initially brought them up. I'm not going to choose it just yet, but my leading guess has got to be John Schuster because he is the caller person. I already forgot the name. The skip, yes, which I loved when I learned that was the name of essentially the captain or the person calling things out.
Well, think skipper.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why I liked it. I was like, oh man, that's great. Wow, he was a flag bearer. That's so cool. What an honor. I'm going to choose John Schuster. I feel like I have to because that's the only logic that I have. So I'm choosing John Schuster. All right.
Yeah, he went kind of from being a pariah a few Olympics ago to being one of the big guys. So
redemption story. Everyone loves a redemption story, a comeback. John Schuster, I want that name to become a household name, and I'm glad we're doing our part to make that happen. So that puts me at 3 for 5. And if I'm holding true to my earlier statement, if you get this one right, we will have tied. But because of my kind of sketchy question, you'll get the win. So there's a lot on the line here. This is a rare win or lose situation here by what you get on this one. And it's a true or false. So odds are in your favor. True or false? There has never been a 4-woman bobsled event at the Olympics. Is that true or is that false?
I am going to go with true.
There's never been a 4-woman bobsled event at the Olympics. You're saying that's a true statement.
Yeah, and mainly because I know that there's at least one other sport, and I'm trying to think of the name of it at the moment. I believe the biathlon that doesn't even have a women's.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you're going to say that this kind of goes in line with that fact.
Yep.
All right. For the win, John. That is correct. You won the episode because of my shady question. Congratulations. And yeah.
Wait, no, it's the Nordic combined that I believe doesn't have the women's, not the biathlon.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
I think if I'm understanding correctly.
Well, regardless, you bring up a good point, and part of why I wanted to include this question was just to sort of bring awareness to this issue, quite frankly, of equality and whether enough strides have been made at equality within the Winter Olympics. It's a touchy subject, but this year actually is the first time that there is an even number of men and women bobsled events. So in that sense, It's like you could look at that on paper and say, okay, that's equality. So the men can compete in the 4-man bobsled and the 2-man bobsled. The women only have the choice of competing in the 2-woman bobsled and the monobob. So as an individual, they are racing down in a bobsled. There's not a men's monobob sport. And a quick side note of when I first heard monobob, I was envisioning like a person sitting like crisscross applesauce style with your legs crossed, in like a little tiny sort of orb like thing and just going down with their little helmet coming out. It's not that. It looks like a bobsled, it's aerodynamic and pointing forward, and there's one person, and in case of the Olympics, it's one woman pushing it just like anybody else, and she does everything. She steers it, she brakes it, she does all of the above. So yeah, you could look on paper that, okay, well, there are 2 events for men, there are 2 events for women. That's totally fair. And you could also even argue that by the rules, I don't know if this is I think it's just for the 4-man team, you can have a mixed team. You can have any number of females on that team. You could have 4 females on that team. But because weight is such a big part of the strategy, women are typically lighter than men. And so there has never been a woman in a 4-man bobsled team. Again, on paper, you could argue, okay, well, yeah, you could have a 4-woman team competing in bobsled. So we're giving them the opportunity. But when strategically it does not make sense to do that, when the competition is so high, the argument should and could be made, in my opinion, that there should be a 4-woman bobsled event, and I don't know what the red tape is to make that happen. I don't know what the difficulty is, but it doesn't really seem like true. In fact, I think there should be a men's monobob and a women's 4. It should be 3 of each. I don't know how hard it is to make that happen. I'm sure it's much more complicated than that, but it's weird that this conversation even exists about allowing women to compete,
and the whole argument of on average, men weigh more than women, that might be kind of an outdated thinking as well.
That is a good point. I get, because obviously you also want athletic people to do this because part of the strategy of bobsled is pushing that sled and getting a good start. I don't have the numbers. So you're right. That may be an outdated way of thinking. I don't have the numbers to show whether an athletic man versus an athletic woman is any different in weight, so.
Yeah, who knows? But I mean, at least on the Nordic combined. So Nordic combined is a mixture of cross-country skiing and ski jumping.
Okay.
Evidently why it hasn't been allowed for women is ski jumping wasn't an Olympic event for women up until a couple Olympics ago.
Yep.
So since that's been added, there was actually an application put in for this Olympics for women to do Nordic combined, but it got turned down. But I guess the IOC is looking at it for the 2026.
Well, that would be great. Yeah, I don't remember when this quote was said. And in fact, I don't have the exact quote, so I should be cautious with this. But there was some statement about why women weren't allowed to ski jump, and it was like it didn't seem suitable for them or something along those lines. It's just super fascinating that as much progress as we've made in the world, how archaic some things still are. I believe that statement was many, many years ago though. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are people who still have those thoughts. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I just say this all to say there's a long way to go in a lot of things, but you better believe I'm going to be supporting the women's monobob this year and hope that down the line there can be a little more equality. And it's not just bobsledding across the Olympics and quite frankly across the world. So, all right, John. Well, we'll return next week. You know what we should do, John, is when I come out to visit you and we play hide and seek and I chop your wood and we go to the D&D convention and we go to the Troll Hole in Canton, Ohio, we should curl. We should go curling and maybe even find a bobsleigh place.
Yeah, we could try.
Yeah, but let's add curling for sure on that list.
Okay.
All right, man. I'm looking forward to it. If you're on social media, send John a happy birthday because his birthday is right around the release of this episode. Happy birthday, John. I did send you a gift, by the way. Do you want to shout me out for that?
Yeah, I mean, if was it pre-show last week, if you listen to that, mentioned the Star Trek comm badge on my mic stand.
Yeah.
And I mentioned how that there are Bluetooth ones, and so Kevin went and got me a Bluetooth one.
I got him a Bluetooth one. So you can actually do the thing where where you hit it and then you can talk to it. I'll totally be the first to say that like there's not a lot of practicality to it. Like it's this little tiny speaker. It's not really the ideal way for you to be communicating or listening to music. But the fact that you can do it
for a phone call, I think it wouldn't be that bad. Okay. Music, it sounded horrible.
I had a feeling, but I just figured as a collector that would be a fun gift for you to have, and we talked about it. So, anyways, I feel very self-serving for making you shout me out for that. That was a joke, but I did want to take the time to actually wish you a sincere happy birthday and say how grateful I am for you in my life and that we get to do this podcast together, man. It's a blast.
Thank you for the wishes and thank you for the present. And I'm happy that we're doing this. It's fun. Yeah. And we're going to keep doing it.
We're going to keep doing it. And thank you to the listener who's doing this. We will be back next week. We're looking forward to it. Happy birthday, John. Thank you to listeners. And it's been great being here.
It's the Lack of Genius podcast in your ear holes at last. They don't know they're Mars from Venus. That's why it's the Lack of Genius podcast.
Oh my God, am I going to pee my pants during this?